Good morning!
Good morning.
Oh, it's a wonderful morning. We have a full crew here in the studio today.
We do. This is probably the most crowded the studio has ever been.
Yes, it's nice. We now have 5 people in this room. No Lincoln yet. He might show up at some point. You
Yeah,
never
that
know.
would be great.
Yeah.
Just maybe hop up on the couch with us. And
Yeah, and just to acknowledge her because she's here, this is Angela Poon. We'll talk a little bit more about her. Why don't you say hi?
Good morning.
All right, good. Now, you remember that exact sentence I told you to memorize?
No, I've already forgotten.
Oh, darn. Well, so today is Thursday, December. I almost said September. Not quite. September 2nd, is a great day, though. December 2nd. And yesterday, what did we talk about yesterday, Ryder?
oh man, we're all over the place. But we talked to Alexandra Mannerings from Mirakinos, and she does statistics and we're really talking about how we judge and value things that we read, right? So you'll hear a headline, you'll see something online somewhere, and it says, coffee gives you cancer, or coffee saves your life, or red wine makes you healthier. And like, how do you determine whether or not that has value to it, and like whether or not you, put that into your life as a way of being? And so we're kind of talking about that and what happens between science and journalism, and how that kind of the sort of truthfulness or falsity of science gets kind of twisted or warped through journalism before it gets to us.
Yeah, no, that's a very great recap. And one minor tweak I want to say is Alexandra Mannerings does statistics. Yes, she also does lots of data analytics and things like that. And actually, one of her core customers is nonprofits. And it's a little teaser here for why Angela might be sitting on this desk. She's not sitting on the desk. I mean, but that would be entertaining. Maybe you could do like a Tom Cruise moment where you jump up and down on the couch.
Let's go.
So that was great. And then we had a challenge from yesterday, Ryder. This is, let's see if Ryder remembers a challenge.
Ooh, challenges.
That is the challenge.
I think the challenge was, if you read a headline or something, we wanted you to actually think about the source material. Maybe try to track down where this news or information was actually coming from. And then I even sort of brought up that I had continued to keep telling the same story that I got from a book, and then Alexandra just proved to us that it was wrong. And I have been quoting this thing forever about the time of day versus your incarceration when you meet a judge and all this kind of stuff. And she's like, yeah, we've never been able to replicate that. That was one study that was really popular to cite, and it's not actually replicable.
Yeah, and there are a lot of things that happen like that. And, that's one of the things both here and Helpful for Life and for other people as well is, I encourage people to be comfortable being wrong, but then own it, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. We've talked about cancel culture many times on here, but that the downside of cancel culture is it leads to less transparency, and people are less afraid or more and more afraid to say that they did something wrong or they admitted that they did something wrong. But realistically, I think we'd all do much better if people just went further in the opposite direction, right? There are some problems if you go too transparent, which we'll talk about someday. I know you've got some thoughts on that, but
Are being invisible? Like
yes,
transparent?
exactly.
Yeah, lots of thoughts. Great superpower.
Yeah. That was a great episode. It's always good to have Alexandra on. So today, our main subject at hand here is Angela, and she is the director of Community Garden Kitchen. And you might be like, well, what does that read? And I will tell you right after this intro.
Helpful for life.
And we're back. Welcome to What the Hell is Water? I'm Reed Garcia, founder of Helpful for Life.
This is Ryder Richards, the dude that sits on the couch on this podcast show.
Nice. And this is Angela Poon. I'll let you tell me who you are, Angela. Who are you?
Oh, I'm a great celebrity here in the town of McKinney.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. She actually, there's the Kardashians, and then there's her. Just
Well,
a different level,
yeah. Right.
I see her
Actually,
actually
a little more coverage than I do.
Yeah. When she was walking up today, we had to bat away the paparazzi. We're like, no, stay away. Oh no, so are you the director? Is that your?
I'm the president and executive director of Community Garden Kitchen.
Yes, thank you. So, Community Garden Kitchen of Collin County, I'll add.
Of Collin County.
I will say, so, I would love to intro it, but I think it's best to hear from you. What is Community Garden Kitchen?
We are constructing and just about finished with construction on the first kitchen in Collin County that's going to be open to serve anyone who needs a meal. And people can walk in. There's no You don't have to show an ID. You don't have to fill out any paperwork. No questions asked. If you're hungry, come in and have a meal. We're doing freshly prepared meals. We've got a freestanding building at 501 Howard Street, and we're just at the end of construction. I would advise people not to try to build anything during a pandemic.
Yeah, right. He was just telling me yesterday, well, the price of wood went up again.
The price of wood went up, and there's things that you can't get. We waited 10 months for electrical parts.
Oh, man.
So, and we finally, turned the lights, let there be light. And we turned the lights on, finally got it. Yeah. So it was really exciting. But so we're getting close. We're hoping, we got to get our CO and hoping to be open maybe the second week of January. We're kind of different because we're going to be open in the evening. We wanted to be able to reach and serve the working poor. Inflation has really hurt a lot of low-income to mid-income families, and we don't want people deciding between food and fuel or food and medicine or food and rent. So hopefully we can take a little pressure off that. So we'll be open from 6 to 8 in the evening. During the day, we share a campus with Holy Family School, which is a preschool here, one of the oldest preschools in McKinney. And during the day, we'll be serving meals for the children there and the staff. Mm-hmm. And we also have a garden there. We're growing. It's an organic garden.
Yeah, it's in the name, community garden kitchen.
Yeah,
so we got the garden
and
the kitchen aspect. And I got to say, we were over there just the other day, and man, that garden is looking great. You've had some help setting some things up in that garden. Who's been helping you out with that?
There are two guys, Randy Robnett, and then my husband. He gets drafted into a lot of things. So,
funny how that works, right?
I'm like, go help Randy at the garden. So they've put a lot of time in developing the garden, and Globe Life has the naming rights of the garden. So it's the Globe Life Garden at the kitchen.
In Globe Life, man, they're getting their sponsorships out there. I heard they just opened a new fancy baseball stadium down with the Texas Rangers. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing, that's the thing. When you're like as big as the Kardashians, you can pull all types of sponsors. Wow. And so you get they sponsor the Rangers and they sponsor Community Garden Kitchen.
There we go.
Angela, she knows her way around. And so today there's a couple things I want to talk about. One, I want to talk about first the term food insecurity, mm-hmm. because that's one that I personally had not heard before. And now that I've learned a little bit more about it, it's kind of really opened my eyes. And just a little bit of teaser on that, you don't have to be a poor person, not make that much money to find yourself food insecure necessarily. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. And then, Angela, whether you like it or not, we want to talk a little bit about how this got started and all the hoops you had to jump through, because there are a lot of parallels, and I know I can relate. Because you set a plan, you have a date, and you say here's when it's going to be, and then sometimes life just happens to you, and then on top of that, sometimes a global pandemic comes in and just changes everything. But you know what? When you're doing once in a lifetime type of thing, sometimes once in a lifetime events have to happen to you, and the best thing you could do is take it in stride. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So first, let's start off with the. I guess let me give my thoughts on Community Garden Kitchen. So first off, I got to say, if you're ever like worried about people talking bad about you or whatever, then you just go and be like, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but have I told you about this nonprofit I work with where we feed the hungry? And then it kind of takes the wind out of their sails a little bit. So, that's been it's been a fun thing to be a part of. A fun little story was, my mom actually sent me, I moved back to McKinney, and she was like, hey, here's an organization I think you would enjoy and be being a part of and helping out with. And so I emailed in and I sent the volunteer form in, and then I think you wrote back and you're like, hey, I wrote in about some of my skills or whatever. And you're like, well, hey, I need help with this or that. And I'm like, well, I think you said we're looking at doing having a chef, and we're going to film them cooking. And I'm like, I literally just finished filming an entire course on cooking, so this might work out okay. And so that happened. And then what we did was we did a live streamed nowadays, all y'all out there like, oh, he's been live streaming forever. But no, that was actually my first live stream I'd ever done, at that scale at least. And it was a live stream cooking show that was also instructional. And it came with an instruction booklet that also doubled as a recipe book, and you could print that out and you could cook along. And guess what? We did that live back in March, and it seems like a long time ago, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Lots happened since then.
Yeah, that was great fun.
Yeah, and it was cool. I don't know if this brings back any memories, seeing me run around trying to get all the stream going. Yeah, but I gotta say that was a really cool experience for me, because that was the first time I had done something on that scale, and we were in the Fogo de Chao test kitchen above their headquarters, and we were setting up, and I'm like, just like here when it's like, oh, some of our audience members are like, do you always start on time? I was like, yes, we always start on time. Yes. Fighting some tech issues, running around, getting stuff connected and things like that. And in that case, it's like, oh, here comes the Fogo de Chao CEO. And, oh, he's the chief of marketing. I'm like, oh, hi. Hope you don't mind staring at my butt as I'm bending down over here. But honestly, I was frankly impressed and surprised by how much that went off without a hitch. I was expecting more stuff to go wrong, because as it does, right? Sometimes stuff goes wrong. But it went off without a hitch, and we had an amazing meal with Chef Jenny Brightman. And you know what the best part about all of this is, Angela? We made it so everyone out there can still go and participate.
You can go.
Yes, you can. So you can go to Community Garden Kitchen's website, which I'm going to post here in the chat now. And you can click, actually, I'll give you a direct link. Kenny, help me out with this one. It's for CGK Cooks. And so this was just episode 1 for us. We plan on doing this more and more. But you can go there and you can support and you can watch. It's an hour long, and you can either just watch it straight up for entertainment, or you can cook along and you can buy the ingredients. And I got to say, we made the meal. We couldn't make it during the event because, we were a little busy. But we made it later, and it actually went really well, and it tasted really good.
The food was great. Yeah. I mean, what you guys did, you and Kenny, and I believe your sister was there.
Yeah, she helped out too.
Yeah, that was great.
And it was a really fun experience. And I got to say, one of the definitely top moments of my life at the end, when we cut to black, and then all of a sudden everyone starts clapping and cheering. It was really cool. It was really neat. All right, so that is enough about me. But I'm glad you entertained that for a little bit. And so, Community Garden Kitchen, a couple of the keywords that I really like that you say is dining with dignity. And the fact is that people can come into the restaurant, which it is a restaurant, and they have a waiter who gives them a menu. And if they want no, you're fine. That happens. It's December, What can you do?
Yeah, it's the allergy.
Yeah, exactly. And they can come into the restaurant and they have a menu and be like, today I'm just feeling like coffee and dessert, or maybe I'm feeling like a full meal. But they have an actual menu they can look like, and they can order, and they don't have to be like, sadly enough, I feel like some people get embarrassed because they feel like they can't provide, or they feel, I don't know what they feel, frankly, because I can't relate. But it's so nice to have a place where they can go and not have to feel that shame, So when we're talking about food insecurity, what does that mean? What is the definition of that?
I grew up with the term hunger, and when we started getting into this, I kept running across this food insecurity, and I really kind of thought, oh, what is this, like a politically correct? What's wrong with the word hunger?
Right.
Hunger kind of, it's all there. So, but I started drilling down into that to find out more about it, and it was really more about how people that are, not having enough food to eat, how this really affects them, body, mind, and spirit. You've got a elementary student, and, they're in math class, and they can't concentrate because all they can think about is there's no food at home. What are we going to eat? And so, the focus goes into constant concern and worry about, and fear about, there's no food. When are we going to eat again? What do we have to do? And so I had a great experience happen when I first got involved in this. And there was a company that called us and said they wanted us to come over and explain what we were doing. We had never done that before, because when we got involved in this, nobody had any experience with fundraising or presentations or anything like that. So, it's like, okay, so we drive to this beautiful building. It was like, at Parker and the North Dallas Tollway, and it was 13 stories high or something. And we go all the way to the top, and it's that kind of building where, when the elevator doors open, you're in the office. It's like really nice. And so it was really intimidating.
Yeah,
actually.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
And so we were escorted into this beautiful, conference room. And so I was trying to explain about the fact that there were over 8,000 children in McKinney ISD that, are food insecure. They're on the free and reduced lunch. What are they eating at night and dinner? And I'm talking to this beautiful woman. She just elegant and everything. And she's listening. And she starts crying. And I'm thinking, I'm either doing really good or I'm doing really bad. I'm like, oh dear, I didn't. And anytime I see somebody crying, then I have to start crying too. So, so we're both sitting there, And she looked at me because I was explaining about the children that I was so worried about. And she looked at me and she said, I was that child. She said, when I was young, my dad got hurt. And it was some kind of injury. And there was a large family. And her mother had to quit work to take care of him. And she said all my brothers and sisters that were old enough got a job, but it wasn't enough. And I don't know why they couldn't go for help, but that's the situation they were in. And she said, I remember walking 3 miles to the Boys and Girls Club to see if they had any food. And she said, I got there and they did have some food. And she said, all I could remember was I was eating it and I felt really bad because I knew everybody at home didn't have any food. And I thought, why should a 9-year-old feel guilty about eating?
Right.
I mean, the thing about it is that I've learned, because I've talked to people that have experienced food insecurity, is it's something that they never get over. I mean, it could have happened 30 years ago.
Right.
They'll tell me the story and they'll tear up because it is it's a
part of them.
It's so scary and they never want to experience that again. And the first thing they say is, how can I help? Because they don't want anybody else to experience this. So I think food insecurity really affects people on such a deeper level than just hunger. Is like you're hungry for the day. But, once you've been hungry over a period of time, that affects you for the rest of your life. So we just wanted to make sure that, there shouldn't be a child in this town that goes hungry.
Of course.
So that's why we're, going to be open in the evening. So, the kids have something to eat before they go to bed. And so people that, have a low paying job that are having to make hard decisions, come have a meal. Just take a little of that burden off of you right now and know that, your kids and you are getting something to eat. I mean, day laborers that, if it's raining for 2 weeks, they're not working. How are they purchasing food? And there's a lot of people, there's a lot of students at Collin College actually that are food insecure. And you just don't really think that, when we started this, we didn't think that there was a problem in.
Right.
We're in McKinney.
Yeah. So let me give a little context about what McKinney is for those of you who, have no idea, right? So McKinney, Texas, just north of Dallas, about 40 minutes or so. It's where I grew up. And, I said I can't relate to the food insecurity, not to be insensitive, but just to let people know, I cannot relate. I'm not going to pretend to relate because McKinney is largely a middle class, upper middle class, very nice suburban city, right? And, it's now has over 200,000 people, which some people is a lot and some people is tiny. When I moved here in 98, dating myself. I'm over 30 now, Angela. I'm getting old.
Oh, gosh. Hurry up and catch up to me.
Getting close. When we moved here in 98, there were only 50,000 people here. And, and now I've heard people say, well, back in my day, that road was just a dirt road, and now it's a whole tollway, and, used to be a strip club over there. Not anymore. Too sad. These are a couple things I've heard about the area, not just McKinney, but, the greater area. But yeah, the thing is there are a lot of people who are doing very well in the city, and McKinney ISD has one of the best school districts. That's why a lot of people moved here. And then, as the city and the metroplex of DFW expands, we're on that edge where it's, affordable enough, but not crazy expensive. And now it's getting more expensive, and that ring's getting a little bigger. But But yeah, I mean, it's a thing where you go to these new schools because they're all new, and you go to all these, the whole development's all new, so it seems very nice and clean. It's hard to, there's a little bit of a disconnect there to say like, oh, there are people in need around here, because you don't see, it's not like when you're in a city like LA or downtown New York City where like you see some grime and you see people walking around who are very obviously, homeless or in need. But yeah, so it's really easy to have that kind of out of sight, out of mind mentality, and that's the thing. Once you get exposed to it, once you start asking and peeling it back, you're like, wow, this is all around me, and I wasn't even aware.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, especially as the executive director, like I'm sure you've heard a lot of stories now. You've been doing this over the last 6 or so years.
It's close to 7.
7, yeah, man, and time flies, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, Ryder, do you have any relations or thoughts on food insecurity?
Oh, so I taught elementary school for 1 year, and that was out in Irving at a Title I school. And so, but when you were talking about insecurity and fear, and it was like if they don't feel safe, if they don't have their basic needs met, then children really can't learn. They're under so much anxiety and stress that they can't retain information. And so that's one of the things that I found to be just really hard is like without these basic needs being met, the entire society is being damaged, because we can't get people to learn things, or we're just trying to like deal with survival for the moment, and this becomes something where you can't think about the future when you have to survive today. And
right.
So this is just a really difficult thing to deal with, and a lot of the students that we're working with would actually show up early to get a morning lunch or a morning meal, and then we'd get lunch, and then some of them would like to stay later, but there was become a point where you had to basically kick them off of the campus. And so there's just not a lot of systems in place even when you see the need. So this is great to hear what you're doing.
Yeah, and I gotta say there's so many different angles that come to my mind, especially the things Ryder and I talk about on the show all across the board, but there are a lot of interesting factors that make McKinney a unique place. We are in Texas, which is a very Republican state, right? And, when we talk about who should be responsible for caring for those in need, right, there's kind of the split between Democrats and Republicans is often Democrats think that the government should be the one providing this assistance, providing this care, whereas Republican thinks that should largely fall on nonprofits and churches and other people. Well, there's oftentimes a gap where, all right, Republicans, you think that's who needs to be doing it, but sometimes they're not necessarily serving the need, and there's not necessarily going to be some government that's going to come in and do it. So that's why you need people like you who do a great job starting the new nonprofit and raising money and getting behind the cause to provide these things for the community. And another thing that go ahead. Did you have something you wanted to say? Or?
No, I'm
okay.
just listening.
Yeah, no. The other thing that I was going to point out was, being in Texas, being right next to Mexico, we have a lot of Mexican people here. I remember early 2000s, something like that, hearing like it's going to crest over 50% Mexican people in Texas. And I don't know what the stat is right now, but regardless, there are plenty of them. If you need Tex-Mex, there's no shortage of Tex-Mex restaurants around here.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, I know, right? It's the best cuisine in the world, guys. Come on, come eat it. Because of that, there's this thing about illegal immigration and legal immigration as well. And that was an interesting thing that I got to see a little bit about growing up, was because I had friends. I had people on the soccer team with me, and it's like, oh, it's hard for them to get a job because some people don't want to take them because of the legal risk and things like that. And then, there's obviously insecurity with housing and stuff like that, and then food and all these types of things. So then you have, day laborers and things like that you mentioned. So there are a handful of these factors, but the big thing for me was, until I had some of those friends, it was very easy for me to be like, oh yeah, we need to shut down those borders. We need to, do all these things. And, we're not need to get political here. Right. But the point is it's easy for you to say this is how it should be when the problem's not looking you in the eyes. Right. And, I'm thinking of when they had all of the kids that they were detaining, a couple of years ago, and it was like, it's a lot more real when you're there and you see it all, and you see that there are people behind it. So when it comes to hunger and food insecurity, and you see the people who need it, it's a lot easier for that to tug at your heartstrings, right? And know like, oh, we want to help, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have to do something. I mean, we're looking at the entire county, pre-COVID numbers. We were looking at over 140,000 people fall into food insecurity.
And for reference, there's about 1 million people in Collin County as a whole. So that's, almost 10%.
Well, and as we grow, because, my gosh, we're growing, and we've been growing, exponentially, we're going to have more people that are going to fall into food insecurity. And so we just felt like that the county needed to have something that, families that suddenly find themselves in an emergency situation, and they just need a meal. So we just needed something like this. It was time to step up, get it done.
Yeah, exactly. And since we're in Texas, we can say, get her done.
Yeah, we got to get her done.
So, 2014, 2015, somewhere in there, it sounds like, was when this started. Well, 2020 comes around, and it's like, what... it's bad to say, but what a perfect example of how quickly things can change. And that's a classic case of where people who you don't think would typically be food insecure, you're talking about people having the nicely dressed clothes and then looking in business, stuff like that. Well, some people who go to work like that lost their jobs, and they still have all the bills that they're used to, and then they find themselves food insecure. So it's not just people who, historically or naturally you would think of that end up with this food insecurity.
Yeah, there was a tremendous number of people. The amount of food that poured out of the food pantries in the county and what North Texas Food Bank was distributing just increased so much. So there were people in all different levels that were needing assistance.
Yeah, and there's a Salvation Army around the corner here, and I see the line of cars. I'm like, oh, okay, it's the day or the time where they give out food, and that line got longer and longer.
Yeah, it did.
And the with COVID, that was another time where it hopefully helped people realize how many things schools do. It's like they're not just teaching your kids; they're daycare, they're providing food, and they're also just getting that kid out of your hair so you can, either go work or, have some time to yourself, whatever that looks like for you. But very quickly, when COVID came around, people who maybe didn't have as much respect for the schools, they're like, all right, I get it. You got to take them back. Just take them back, please. So it's great that, that was a time, so not great that was a time where I bet a lot of people went food insecure because the schools weren't helping at that time. And so it's another great reason why, something like Community Garden Kitchen is around to help with that type of need.
Yeah, it's there, and we're looking at a really broad spectrum, like veterans. 1 in 6 veterans live in a food insecure home in North Texas.
Wow.
So it's like, okay, they served us. We want to be able to serve them if they need this. So reaching out to veterans. We have a homeless population here. We want to be, sure that they're getting enough nutrition. And then senior citizens, you maybe have a senior citizen who's on Meals on Wheels. And maybe they can't stretch that food out all the way because suddenly they've got, a relative that's popped in to live with them. Well, they're, if it's a grandmother, they're going to give that food to that grandchild. And then seniors that are just alone, it's like, come down to the kitchen, have a meal with some people, be a part of this. And, you can volunteer, you can just have a meal, just to break that cycle of loneliness and make sure you get enough nutrition.
For sure.
But,
especially, yeah, go ahead.
So we're looking at a lot of people, like I said earlier, the working poor. People on Thursday waiting for that Friday paycheck, maybe they're down to their last dollar and really don't have enough money to get enough food for their family. So just take that pressure off people and come down. It's going to be very unique. One of the things about that we were talking about dining with dignity. We're not doing those long tables. There was a Zoe's Kitchen, thank you Zoe's Kitchen, that closed down in Denton, and they said, why don't you take all of our furniture and some kitchen equipment, which was fantastic. So our guests will be able to sit down at a 2-top or a 4-top. And, a mom comes in with 2 kids at the end of the day. She's worked all day. The kids are hungry. They're cranky. And, she doesn't want to sit at a long table with somebody she doesn't know. And so this will be like a restaurant experience. And they'll have their own table.
Yeah.
So, we'll have a hostess that will seat them at their table. And like you said, give them a menu. Granted, it's going to be a pretty small little menu, but, allow them to make the choice about what they want to eat, not go, everybody gets the same thing. And it's all about, giving them a choice, giving them 30 minutes out of the day where they can have a good meal. And I always said, I think we've got 4 of the things covered for a restaurant. We've got, the price is right, number one, because it's all free. So that helps. And the food's going to be delicious because we have a professional chef that's going to be cooking. We have a beautiful atmosphere, a beautiful building that's going to be very inviting and welcoming. Now the service, since it's all volunteer, could be a little iffy.
Yeah, we'll see.
But I think, once our volunteers come down and serve, they're going to want to do it again because it's going to be such a fulfilling experience for them. And so they'll get better at it. But, we just want to be open to every business, church, organization and say, go to the website, sign up to be a volunteer, come in and serve. You can work in the kitchen, preparing food if cooking is what you like, or if you're great with people, you might want to be on the floor serving meals. So we've got a lot of volunteer opportunities there too.
Yeah, well, in case you guys haven't picked up on it, she's mentioned some of the ways that they've already been helped, and a lot of them are not just money. Money is great, and I will say that money is a tool that
Money's great.
Money, it's like
money's needed.
It's a fact of running
Those lights
a business
turned on,
or an
I'm gonna have to pay
organization.
that
It's
bill.
like you got to buy the food, you got to do that,
Yeah.
but obviously not everyone is in the spot where they can
Right.
donate money, and there are other ways you can help. And one of the ways you mentioned is something called in-kind donations, which is a fancy way of saying I'm going to donate a good or a service or my time, and that will help this organization run. And then another way is volunteering, as you mentioned. And then, of course, a third way is donating itself. And, I want to mention for those of you at home, like, all right, you got us. You got us. We want to help. We want to donate. You can go to communitygardenkitchen.com.
.org.
Thank you. See, she's good at this. She's been around. communitygardenkitchen.org, which we'll drop in the chat again. And it is, you can, at the top there, we're actually running a campaign. It's called Fill the Fridge and Pack the Pantry. So click the Fill the Fridge button, and we'll want to donate through there so we can go towards this campaign. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a little bit too. But the one thing I wanted to mention with as you're providing this service was, it was in my head and now it's just completely, out of my head. So that happens sometimes.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I'm real familiar with that.
Yeah. Ryder, any thoughts?
Oh yeah, no. I was as you were talking about it, then it's just so multifaceted, and it does seem like we keep talking about the food and food insecurity, and that's a primary thing, and it's like a really great practical thing to offer people. But the other thing you've been talking about is really building and generating community. So this community garden, the idea that you're actually gardening the community so that it grows, is just like a really lovely metaphor. I really like how that works, and how you can bring different parts of the community together that maybe were disparate at one point, and sort of have this kind of rich flourishing. So those are some of the things that I was kind of just like, oh, this is great, this is really wonderful. It's operating on multiple levels.
Yeah, and it's not just a garden, which makes it feel great, and it looks amazing out there. By the way, the garden, the building, all looks very nice and is very welcoming, which helped me remember one of the thoughts that I had, which was, if you're a child, you may not realize that you're in a place providing help, right?
Right.
Which I think is an amazing thing to be said, because that's part of it too. And, whether or not it's logical, that pride, and that feeling of, oh, and again, I can't relate, I'm not going to pretend to, but I've certainly heard and seen of people who are like, they don't want people to know that they're in need, right?
That's a huge thing. And I think that, if your audience can identify with this, I tried to put myself in that position. If I were, say a single parent that, was just struggling, financially, and I had some kids, and, what would I feel like? I mean, I would be, embarrassed, or, to go into a place, the typical soup kitchen. I'd be afraid. I'd be nervous about it. And so what could we do to eliminate that? And I think the way that we've designed our facility, where it will feel like a restaurant experience, hopefully that will help alleviate some of that. I'm hoping really that we can create a model that can be replicated across the United States. It just takes a little bit of extra to, it's just the little things like smaller tables and wait staff. I've been told by some people, it's like, oh, well, it'll never work. And I was told, well, you'll never get it built. And I was like, well, okay, and maybe not real fast, but it'll come together.
Brick by brick.
And we're really fortunate living, I think, in this community because so many people are generous and just have a wonderful spirit about them for giving and wanting to serve. And so I'm just counting on that. I think it'll all be okay. It's all going to work out.
Yeah. Well, again, to go back to some of the unique things about the state is it's very much in the Bible Belt. There's a lot of churches around here, and on top of that, now we have a whole bunch of Californians coming in. So we got the liberals, we got, the churches. So between all of that, we should be able to make some stuff happen. But if you're out there listening, you're like, well, why do I care about McKinney, Texas? You just described it as this great place. Well, it is a great place, but I also want to point out, even if you don't care about McKinney, Texas, do this for your community, right? And by investing and helping, not investing, but donating and helping with this facility, we can help be a blueprint that can be replicated elsewhere. And I would love to see that too. And, we've talked already about, here's how the training you could do this, and here's how we could set it up to where we can get, donations coming at a regular basis. And, me with trying to figure out the best way to do all the things and set up all the structures, it gets all of my lights firing, and it's really exciting and a great time. And I'm very ready to see it going and in action and open, and I can't wait to see it because I think it's gonna change a lot of lives. And
I hope it will. I just think that it would be so great if that kid that was hungry last year doesn't really have to worry about it this coming year.
Yeah.
That they know they're going to get enough to eat.
Yeah, and over the past few years, I've come to really appreciate user experience and user design a lot more. And you guys have thought through a lot of that stuff. And, and it's not just, hey, come and get food. We serve you. It's no, okay, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What are they thinking as they're coming in? How is it laid out? Where do they sit? All of those little things, when it comes to hospitality and hosting, it's really what it is. It's just paying attention to those little things. And for a lot of hospitality, it really doesn't take that much more time, or not time necessarily, but money. A lot of times it's just paying attention and focusing. And okay, as you're giving them the menu, as you're talking to them, are you doing it with a smile? Are you greeting them? Are you making them feel welcome? And those are all the little types of things that y'all have already done a great job of thinking through, and we'll do more of as we start getting the volunteers in. Because if there's anything that and I know, it's the best laid plans very quickly change. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that after the break. But one last thing I wanted to point out was just how impactful it can be on someone, because when you're talking about how it affects people for life, I was thinking about my friend who was telling me, hey, my grandparents lived through the Depression, and he's like, even to this day, 70 years later, 80 years later, however long it's been, they just completely different. The way they look at food, the way they look at people spending money, all these types of things. Like, it's hard to take that out of somebody because, we talk a lot on the show about caveman brain. At the end of the day, we're animals, and we have like this caveman brain, and then we have this smarter layer on top, right? Well, it goes to that caveman brain because it's like, I'm hungry and I need to survive, and you are in that state for so long, it becomes part of who you are. And same kind of thing with, I've heard people who've become very successful but came from very poor places, and they're like, even though they have millions and millions of dollars now, they still can't not look at money in a different way, because it's like it's just hardwired in them. Thoughts, Ryder?
Yeah. My grandmother used to stockpile newspapers because they spent money on the newspaper. She wouldn't throw them away, and so we had an entire room in their house that was nothing but newspapers. And so that was Depression era kind of thinking. And so there becomes this like really deep psychological thing there. And yeah, if we can, I don't know, help people be healthier and not have to, sort of work through those kind of issues and problems, then that's fantastic. And it's also one of those things you're talking about, like it becomes a constant, and survival is really key, and it shapes so much of what we do. And the idea that, we need organizations that are going to come in and help people survive and help them live a better life, and sort of fulfill those gaps that are existing right now. I mean, I would love it if legislation could be passed that would make this all possible, but that's not happening anytime soon.
No.
So in the meantime, let's do something practical and real.
Well, and the thing about it is there's so many fortunate people here that want to share, their gifts, and that's very important for organizations like ours. 2019, 2020, how long have we been in the pandemic?
Right.
That was
Forever.
really hard on all nonprofits because people were afraid. And so I think we're coming out of that now. It's like, if we're going to live with this, we're going to live with this. Let's just march on and hope that things turn out okay. But so, it's important that people do give to their favorite nonprofits and support these kind of efforts that are going on, on all different kinds. There's a lot of different great nonprofits. That's one of the things that we're going to do that's kind of unique. We're going to have at the kitchen an additional services table. And so I'm inviting nonprofits that can provide services to our guests other than food.
That's awesome.
To come in one evening a week, bring their literature, and then if our guests decide they want to avail themselves of, maybe we've got somebody there that can do job placement or transportation or, blood pressure check or just any kind of service that nonprofits in our area are providing, come be at the kitchen. I'm going to bring them in with food. You can tell
Right.
them about your nonprofit and what services that you can provide. So I think that is going to be, hopefully will open some doors for people, maybe on housing or different things. So
Yeah, I think that's so awesome because this discoverability is very important because guess what? Sometimes this food insecurity just happens to you. It's not like you were planning on it, right? And so you don't necessarily know what's out there, and that's part of the struggle too is, what are my options, right? And so I think that's amazing that once you get some people in, I can't help but think of a friend I had who they went into the hospital for something and they were getting some care, and then the facility they were at did a great job. They had really thought through that user experience, and as they were there, they got the medical care they need, but then an hour later, they brought in a nutritionist. And then an hour later, they brought in a physical therapist. And then an hour later, they brought in the next person. And they brought in like 5 or 6 people. And it's like, hey, given your condition, here are all the things that you can do to help make it better. And part of it is like, one, just knowing, and part of it is having the people there that are willing and able to help you do those things, right? And it's not always easy. And then also there's other times where even when it's hard to do, right? And so it's good to have, not only will you have that, but that'll be there, right? And so maybe the first time people don't go, maybe the second time they don't, but after they've been there for a while, it's like, okay, now that I've got that base need of hunger down, I can start to think about that next level up. One thing is called the Maslov's hierarchy of needs, right? And the first step is basically survival, getting that food.
I thought it was Wi-Fi.
Darn. The modern day.
Yeah, the modern day.
So, once you get that basic need, then you can start to work on those higher needs. So I think that's great that you guys are going to be a wonderful first step for a lot of people in our community. So with that being said, we are going to take a quick break so you can have a little bit of a breather, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit about what it took for Community Garden Kitchen to get here. And we're also going to talk about the Fill the Fridge campaign. So make sure you go to communitygardenkitchen.org, and you can check out the website there, and you can click on the Fill the Fridge campaign if you'd like to donate, because that's where we're raising money this month. And you can also click the volunteer button in the top right. And if you are a company or you have some sort of provide some service, or you would like to provide some, $50,000, $100,000, $1 million, whatever you're feeling like, make sure to write in the contact form.
Million laying around.
Yeah, exactly.
Extra million.
Just an extra million. So yeah, we will be right back, and you guys just stay put. Wrong. All right. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back to What the Hell is Water. I'm Reed Garcia.
This is Ryder Richards.
And we have with us here Angela Poon. And today, we were just talking a lot about the nonprofit that you started and you're the executive director of. Man, that's amazing. Congratulations,
Thank
by the
you.
way. Live audience, please.
Oh,
Cue
there we go.
applause. So, real quick, I wanted to highlight what Danielle said in the chat. She says, is there another way to support CGK with Amazon Smile?
Exactly. If you go to our website, there's a...
You can scroll down to the bottom.
Yeah,
and you can
on the
see.
homepage, there's an Amazon Smile thing you can go to.
Yeah, and
what is Amazon Smile?
Yeah, so I'll
I'm
describe
one of these
Amazon
old
Smile.
people that don't understand this.
Yeah.
If you shop on Amazon, you can select a charity you want to support. And so every time you purchase something on Amazon, they give a percentage to that charity.
At no extra cost to you. So
Yeah.
especially going into this holiday season, for those of you out there,
Serious shoppers.
yeah, the serious shopper for sure. All you literally need to do is you go to Smile. Well, you can go to her website and you can click on it, and you may basically get set up through there. But after you get set up, all you do is instead of going to Amazon.com, you type in smile.amazon.com, and it donates. I think 1% of your purchase, I believe, goes to that nonprofit. So this, even if you don't want to have an explicit donation, just every time you shop at Amazon, go to smile.amazon.com. and make sure that CGK is your nonprofit of choice. And of course, if you have other nonprofits that you'd like to support as well, you can do that too. But we all know that the best answer is CGK.
Yeah.
So, but when we talk about what it took to get here, so why don't you talk about when this was just a little spark in your head, or how did this come to be? What was the beginning?
I had a Bible study at my house. We'd been meeting probably for 5 years, and we never planned on, it was a bunch of women, and it was like if they wanted to bring food that Saturday, we were the Saturday sisters, and so if they wanted to bring food, then so they'd show up with food, but we never organized it. And that particular day, everybody showed up with food. I think I had the best cheese grits I'd ever eaten in my entire life, made by a lady from New Orleans, so she knew what she was doing. And so we had just piled on the food. We're all talking, and we're piling on food, and we're getting ready to do our Bible study. And for some reason, and to this day, I don't know how it happened, we just started talking about food insecurity, obviously with these big piles of food.
Right.
But and we really thought, well, that's kind of a Dallas thing, isn't it? We didn't have any idea that there was that problem here. Well, we had two principals there, Julie Smith and Paige Hanks, that were principals at Title I schools. And they said, well, actually, there is a problem. And so we were like, well, what are we talking? I mean, 150 kids, which would be way too many as far as I'm concerned. And it's like, well, no. And so everybody starts Googling stuff, and it's like, no, there's over 8,000 children that, are on the free and reduced lunch. And we're like, that many here in McKinney? And so then it started looking county-wise, and it's like over 40,000 kids. And so it's like, and I just remember walking around the table with a coffee pot because I was filling everybody's cups, and we're all talking. And I just remember saying, well, we'll just raise the money and build it. Because, what we did, we looked and we were like, well, there's got to be a place already that's providing meals. I mean, we're so fortunate to have the food pantries that we have and churches that supply food for people. But there wasn't any place that had, where you could go have a meal. And so I was just like, well, let's just raise the money and build it. And it was that simple. It was kind of one of those conviction moments where you go like, okay, what did I just came out of my mouth? We're going to do this.
Yeah. It's like one of those things where you're talking about a problem, and then you're like, oh, whether it's in the family or the business or whatever, you're like, oh, this that needs to happen, blah, blah, blah. And they turn around and say, well, that sounds like a great thing for you to do.
Yeah,
Thanks for volunteering. And you're like, and I bet little did you know at that point that, it would be, 7 years later?
I had no idea. I mean, you have these ideas, you have no idea what you're getting into. But we were fortunate in the fact that, because the first thing it was like, okay, we looked around and we thought, well, what's really needed to prevent this food insecurity? And it was establishing a place. That was the one link that was missing in the county. And so it's like, okay, how do we get land here? Land's kind of pricey here. So how do we do this? And we found out that Holy Family School, which is a little preschool here, had, always wanted to build a kitchen on their property. They were sitting on a 2-acre piece of ground. And the school's just at one end, so they got all this ground there. So, and it belongs to the Episcopal Diocese of Dallas. So we got in the car and went down to the Episcopal Diocese of Dallas and said, hey, we got this idea. We want to build a building, feed people. What do you think? Can we, build it on your land? And they were like, okay. So,
that's great.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, we got land,
Well, and sometimes, it's a great point. Sometimes all it takes is asking.
Yeah.
If I had $1 every time I asked something and I was expecting a no, but I was surprised at the yes, I would have a lot of dollars.
There you go. There you go.
And, right behind you is a picture of Danielle in the RV, and that's how that happened. It's like, hey, you want to travel, the world, or the U.S. in an RV? And she's like, okay. I was like, oh. All right. Well, I don't know the next step. So then you just pick one and you just start going, and you hit the next one and the next one, right?
Yeah.
So what happened after you got the land?
Well, we got the land, and so then it was time to design the building. And so I had a little bit of experience with construction over my long lifetime. And so I knew the kind of building that I wanted. And it's a Morton building that we've, adopted because of it's energy efficient and it's easy to build, and it would look good in the neighborhood. We wanted to fit into the neighborhood, and so getting that all designed, and then the big march to the city, which is kind of like a death march to the
I can hear the music. And then, dun, 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 dun,
you have
dun,
no
dun,
idea what
dun,
you're
dun,
getting
dun,
into.
dun.
Yeah, it was really it's been interesting, but and then it was like, okay, now we got to raise money to build this. So what do we do? How do we go about doing that?
Yeah, I'm curious about that. Like, did you just start with a network of friends? Like, what?
Yeah, we
what
kind of
happened there?
we kind of put it out there that this is what we wanted to do, and somebody gave us $25, and so and according, we've now been able to raise enough to build this building and pay for it. So the next,
So I'm going to talk for you because you're a very humble person, but it's amazing what you've been able to do. You raised over $1 million to get this building built. Cue applause, audience.
Thank you, audience.
Which is amazing. It's an amazing thing that you've done. And one of the reasons that you've done that, as you told me, was because you're like, I want this building to get built, and I want it to be, debt-free. I don't want to have a mortgage that we need to pay down. And so now that's been a great thing that you guys have done. So you have the building, and you can focus now and invest in the operating cost and keeping, things like that. So you can, you have that solid foundation to start with, and then you can just keep building on top of it. So I think it's an amazing thing that you've done with that.
Well, thank you. We worked out a lease with the diocese, and so for a rent, I pay them $10 a year.
Yeah,
so,
I like it.
Yeah, so that's good. And so people that donate, they're not paying off debt service. So they know that their money is actually going to the people that need it. We're providing food. We're providing a place for them to eat. So, donate. People don't like capital campaigns. I don't like them either. I'm never going to do one again.
Right?
This is like, yep, this was it. Okay. But it was just important not to have that debt hanging over, so the next group that takes over this, the next board that comes in, is not struggling with that, and just focused on the mission, which is get people fed.
And I gotta say, that's the thing. Now that I've worked with you for about a year or so, I think it's been great to see that you're not just thinking about the short term, right? You're thinking about how is this going to be a staple of the community for a very long time. And so what can we do today to set it up so that they can continue to be successful going on into the future? And that's hard enough to do for anything, it's even a business, right? But it's even harder when you're dealing with volunteers, because sometimes you have this thing where it's like, hey, volunteer, can you help me with this thing? Can you edit this video for me maybe? And can you get that to me by Friday? And then it comes to be like Sunday or Monday, and you're like, hey, anonymous volunteer who I'm not going to name, where's that video? What's going on? And it's
you?
Yeah.
Not me.
Oh, wow, Ryder, just
No,
share the blame. But
it's incredible what you've done.
See, and look, she's even good at saving face, right? That's good.
Yeah. No, you've been fantastic.
The point being is that with volunteers, it's a little bit different, right? You don't really want to fire volunteers, and they're not getting paid. They don't have.
Fire a volunteer?
It's all about timing. So I've learned that I was in business for a long time. We owned our own business, and so you could fire somebody if they weren't performing.
Or spouses. I mean,
Yeah. So, but with volunteers, I've learned I just start 3 months early. Everything's in advance. I mean, and that's a new thing that you have to learn in this process. There's been so many learning curves on this, which have been great. I mean, and just seeing like what you're doing, what all of you guys have got going on here, it's amazing to me. And you've done such a fantastic job. I mean, bringing this on and the work that you and Kenny have done, and maybe you all been involved.
No,
in
I just sit on the couch.
Sit on the couch.
That's all I do.
You do
That's
it
it.
very
You heard his
well.
title,
Thank you.
right?
I've owned this spot.
Yeah.
When he gets up, if you actually look, you can see the imprint. It's nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And I gotta say, I mean, I'm not going to speak for you, but for me, if you said, hey, Reed, in 2021, you're going to produce a live cooking show where people are being taught how to cook a meal by a chef in the test kitchen for Fogo de Chao, and it's going to be live streamed to the internet, and it'll be like, but Reed, you said you wanted to be an electrical engineer. What are you doing? You're running a TV show now. So it's crazy where life will take you sometimes, and not to age you, but I mean, you've had a wonderful life and career up before you even did this thing. I mean, did you think some earlier day it was like, oh man, I'm gonna retire or finish this career thing, and then I'm gonna go create this whole other thing, which is probably more work and stress than a job itself?
Yeah, it's actually I'm working harder now than I was when we had our own business. And having your own business, you work pretty hard. Somebody said, well, you only have to work half a day if you own your own business. Just pick what 12 hours you want to work.
There you go.
Yeah, no, but it's been amazing. It's been an amazing experience because I've gotten to see people like you who and Kenny who have just donated your time and effort, and I've seen that in so many different areas where people. And I had a guy come up to me, and I told him what we were doing, and he goes, well, I'm going to give you $50,000. And I'm like, how much have you had to drink?
And would you like another?
Yes, exactly. I would shoot it up to 100 maybe. I'm going to crack open the good stuff.
Yes,
now.
yes.
But, I mean, I'm just blown away by some of the generosity of people. I've got a couple of guys that I work with on this construction project that, they've put their heart and soul in this. Mike Solomon and John Steller have worked really hard with the construction. It's been very challenging and basically pandemic and supply shortage issues. But there have been some other issues, with the city and just getting things done right. But and I couldn't have done it without them. So, it's been a team effort. I mean, there have been people that have come in and done work and have moved on, but the people that show up are always showing up at the right time. I mean, it's got blessings all over it. So,
yes.
That's what's so amazing to me that I'm like, okay, I need somebody to do this, and suddenly they're there. And they're willing to help. And so that's been just a miracle to watch.
Yeah, well, it's great to see, the people that come out of the woodwork when you have a good cause to stand behind, and people see it and resonate with the mission, then they can come and help, right? And then next thing you know, you got a guy building, elevated garden beds for you so you can have a wonderful garden, which, by the way, I don't think we mentioned earlier, is a teaching garden as well.
It's a teaching garden, yeah.
So let's grow this food so you can see where the food comes from, which is valuable not only for the kids but also for the adults and the volunteers, because if there's something that the average person in America probably doesn't know that much about is where does their food come from, because we've gotten so far removed from that. And so I think that's an amazing thing to be doing, and I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. And I was already over there and I was like, man, how'd y'all grow all this stuff already?
They just threw some seeds in the ground, and I thought, oh well, and it's just growing like crazy.
Yeah, it's been really cool to watch.
Well, I've never seen peas in the wild, so it's kind of interesting for me because there's a lot of food that I've never seen grown in a garden. That's all new to me, and so it's very interesting to watch. And some of the people that have come in, we had a great voice. Here's a cheer for the Eagle Scout Troop number 303.
Oh, cue applause.
Yeah, for the Scouts. We had an Eagle Scout come in and look at a project in the garden, and he got his whole, all the Eagle Scouts, their parents, grandparents came out and worked on building, some pathways for us. It was all donated. They went out and raised the money. They came and did the work. They did a fantastic job. But it was great to have them involved and a part of this. And they were like, what is this about? We want to know about this. We want to come back and volunteer. And I'm like, well, come on, sign up. Let's go.
Well, and the ripples that this project is going to have is going to be crazy, because already up to this point, which doors haven't even opened yet, think of all the lives that have been touched. Maybe they just learned about food insecurity for the first time. Maybe they learned that, hey, okay, even though I live in a nice community, there are people in need, whether that's food insecurity or otherwise. And then, of course, there's the possibilities of volunteering and learning a little bit about food, learning a little bit about what it takes to run a restaurant. There's so many opportunities for people to learn things that they can use and apply for the rest of their lives, or at the very least, they can know a little bit more. And maybe they realize, wow, running a restaurant has a lot of stuff that goes to it. Maybe I'll be a little nicer to that server next time when that thing comes out cold, right?
I think it's going to be a great experience for a lot of the teens. In fact, we've got a group at McKinney High School that is working with Simpson Strong Ties to build raised beds. So they pull that together. And so now we've got the kids involved. They can come out and see what they're doing, that it's going to be productive. The Scouts said this is probably the most meaningful project that we've been on. So, it's wonderful things like that, and the combination of people that are coming together to see the ripples, like you're saying, of all the, people that want to get involved and help. And so they're supposed to bring some raised beds out in January, and but we've got in-ground planning. We wanted to have we had a wonderful landscape designer, Elizabeth Schultz, who created just a magical garden for us. And so it's going to be something, we're growing a lot of flowers because we want to have fresh flowers on the table. And just be a beautiful place of peace that people can come in and walk through the garden. It's very, when the construction has me up against the wall, I go sit out in the garden for a minute and catch my breath. And so it's already...
It serves
really
so many purposes.
Yeah.
It's great. Well, I just want to point out one more time that, if you guys out there want to know how you can help, we're talking about all the benefits this can provide, and we want you to be able to be a part of that. So if you go to communitygardenkitchen.org, that's where you can click the volunteer button in the top right if you're local and you want to volunteer, or you can hit the fill the fridge in the menu bar and you can donate through there to help get us some money. And you heard it here first, guys. Even if you just donate $20, you can pay the lease for the year. So,
there we go.
Whether it's $20,000 or $20 any amount helps.
Everything. We started off at people giving us $25. So,
and you heard it. I mean, I think you said at the very beginning someone gave you $35. So just give what you can, and I think that is an amazing cause for us to get into. I'm completely blanking now. I had a really good point.
I think what we really, our focus is, how can we change lives? And this is one way to help change a life that maybe will, like you said, put them on a better ground for learning. If a kid has enough nutrition, the chances of them staying in school increase, the chances of them not getting sick are better. They're calmer. I mean, you can imagine the stress that would be in a house that doesn't have any food.
Right.
So, just reducing that stress and allowing them maybe to do their homework, and go to bed full,
Amen to that. So, Angela, I wanted to ask you, as you've been doing this and as you come against all of these challenges that come out of left field and, maybe it's a construction related thing, which if anyone's ever done construction, COVID or not, always problems that come up. Construction, whether it's people related, whether it's trying to get things approved with red tape, things like that, what are some, like, how do you keep going? How do you wake up each day and it's like, well, this problem. What's been some things that kind of help you push through all of that?
Well, in the creative process, you have an idea and you start something. And then at some point it kind of takes on a life of its own. And, you've got a tiger by the tail now. So, you're just going forward with what it is you have to
holding on for dear life.
You're just holding on, and you go. I mean, but the thing about it is, it's like it's so needed. How can I not? You just stick with it till you get it done.
Yeah, stick with it till you get it done.
Yep.
I like that. I like that
Get
a lot.
her done.
Yeah,
get her done.
Stick with it till you get her done. Oh, well, so let's talk about this Fill the Fridge campaign. Fill the fridge and pack the pantry. What is that? What does that mean?
Okay, so now that we're coming to the end of the construction, it's time to purchase all the food that we're going to need. And
so I just bring all my Ritz crackers and all my stuff to the community garden kitchen?
No. We prefer not. No, it's much better if people can donate to that. That way I can go out and buy a 50-pound bag of flour or 50 pounds of beans or 50 pounds of rice rather than having, a bunch of small cans in our storage area. We're set up now where we can take large donations of food. which will be coming from North Texas Food Bank and then from some other. We're in communication with a lot of the grocery stores here. So, and we've already got our transportation set up to pick up food and bring it. So this would help us buy those large quantities and run more efficiently. It's more efficient for us to operate that way. So that way we can go out and make a better purchase with your donation.
Oh, that's so great. And, one of the things that I thought of when you were talking about how you're talking with grocery stores is food waste. Food waste is a very big
huge
problem in this country, and in a lot of different spots. It starts all the way at the manufacturer, and they or the farmers, right? And they have this food, and then they get a good chunk of it to the grocery store, but some of it never makes it there, and then it gets to the grocery store, and then some of that grocery store doesn't make it into people's homes, and then of the food that does get into people's homes, some of that is wasted there as well, and I think it's like 30%. It's something
It's
very
pretty high,
big,
yeah.
and we teach about that in the Kickstart Your Kitchen course, which for the next few weeks we're actually going to be running a special thing. So for the rest of December, we're going to donate 50% of all Kickstart Your Kitchen sales to Community Garden Kitchen.
Oh, wow. Right?
Yes,
Thank
so it's a great
you.
way for you guys out there to give you another way to you're going to learn a life skill. You're going to learn how to cook, and you're going to learn how to cook pretty dang well. I can tell you from Thanksgiving and from my waistline that, we've been around a lot of people who've cooked really well for a long time, and we did a ton of work to create this course to not only teach you how to cook, but help you think about all of those small things. We talked about user experience earlier. We talked about, what does it take to host people, and so we have kickstartyourkitchen.com is where you can go. You don't even need to type in any code or anything because we're just going to go ahead and donate 50% of all sales from that to Community Garden Kitchen. And guess what? This is a course that you can, if you want to binge it Netflix style, you can do it in as little as a weekend, but it's really more like a tool you'll have for life that will change the way you cook. And it doesn't matter if you've been cooking for 1 year, for no years at all. You can't even make mac and cheese out of a box, or if you've been cooking for decades. There is something you will learn about this course because it's science-backed, and you can know that what you're getting in there is solid information, and we have a lot of fun while we're doing it. And another thing, since we're talking about ways that people can get some value themselves while also providing help for the Community Garden Kitchen, is the CGK Cooks, which is communitygardenkitchen.org/CGK-cooks, which we'll also put in the chat. And that is where you can watch an hour-long live stream where we have a chef, Jenny Brightman, guide you through how to cook a meal. And
really good food.
Yeah, really good food. Talk about how each step is made. And you can either watch that just for entertainment, or you can do it yourself, and you can go and buy the ingredients, and you can follow through the nice cookbook that we provided with it that tells you not only what the food is, but some tips about it. Hey, check this out. Don't worry about this thing. It gives those little things in between that help you do it successfully. So make sure to check those things out. So, Angela, with the Fill the Fridge campaign, so we're trying to fill the fridge and pack the pantry. In a little bit, we're going to show the video that we made to kind of highlight this. But, out of the food that's going to be cooked at the kitchen, do you have something that you're like, oh, I really hope they make this meal? Do you have a favorite meal that you're like, oh, give me some of that?
Oh, I like lasagna.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. You're going to come cook in the kitchen.
Oh, I bought a little chef, apron for one of the videos I made, so I'll have to throw that on. And
there you go.
I think
there you
that'll
go.
be fun.
Yeah, you can film in the kitchen doing a meal. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Well, real quick, while I'm going to pull up this video, Ryder, do you have any other questions for Angela?
Oh, no, not right now. I'm just plotting out my Christmas gifts that are all involving sending people to your site and to Reed's project. And I was just thinking to myself, if I Kickstart Your Kitchen for several of my family members, and that 50% of those sales went to you, it'd be like a triple win.
Yeah.
Like I help everybody out. So that's what I'm thinking right now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good thinking. I like the way you're
thank you.
going.
Yeah. I'm going to spend money. Where can it go?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, give me 1 second here while I pull up this video, and then we'll play that so people can check it out. Oh,
and one of the things that we thought would be fun is for people to create their own Fill the Fridge, Pack the Pantry video. and put the text to give phone number on there, or communitygardenkitchen.org. And so we're asking people, use your imagination, create your own video. You're the director, you're the filmmaker with your phone.
Yes.
Put it up there and just shoot a, 15-second thing.
Yes,
Post it on your social medias and send it out there into the world. So we thought, well, this would be kind of fun to see how far it would go if people create their own videos.
Exactly.
I mean, they can share the video that you guys did such a great job. What did we have, 100 takes on that? Couldn't get
It was 174, but no one's counting, okay? No one's counting.
I know it was. Y'all were very, very patient. It was really fun, though.
Well, you're a natural on screen, and yes, for those of you at home who would like to help participate and like to help raise money for this, the main thing we ask is you share that link, communitykitchen.org/
communitygardenkitchen.org.
What did I say?
It's Community Kitchen.
I messed it up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll provide the links in chat to make sure you can copy and paste the exact one. communitygardenkitchen.org/ fill the fridge. Fill the fridge. And just for those of you who are like, well, I just want to donate. Well, you can go to that website, and there's a button for you to donate using PayPal, or you can use this fancy new technology, which is called Text to Give. And that's where we have a phone number, and people just type in that phone number and the amount that they want to give, and they can give that way. And guess what? It sets it up to where you can, and just leave it to where in the future, you're like, oh, I want to give again. Well, you just text one more time, and it'll automatically give that money for you, which is awesome, because then maybe you win the lottery, or you have a nice paycheck, or you're just feeling good one day and you're like, I thought about Community Garden Kitchen, let me just text them to give them a little bit of money, and you can provide a meal for somebody for a day, a week. There's all sorts of ways that you can give. But for the videos, if you're going to post it on the Tweets the Book or whatever the kids are calling it these days, make sure that you use the hashtag #FillTheFridge and the hashtag #PackThePantry. So that way we can start to get a little bit of movement going for this. And, the great thing with all of this is we want this to be an amazing campaign where we raise a whole bunch of money so we can make Community Garden Kitchen a success, so we can then use that as a blueprint, and we can recommend the best practices that we can share across the rest of the country and maybe even the world.
Yeah, the Fill the Fridge, Pack the Pantry, we're hoping to raise enough money to run the kitchen for a year. So we're hoping people will donate to it and help us keep the pantry full and keep the fridge full.
Yes. I think those are both very important things. So let me pull up this video real quick. I have to move that lovely box. While I'm doing this, Angelo, tell us one story about some fun adversity that's come up over this last year. Give us one of your fun nightmare stories where something happened.
Well, that's kind of a fun nightmare story.
Nightmare.
Yeah. It's kind of, do those things go together?
Yeah.
Well, I just built a building, and when you're talking about all the issues with construction, it was just like on and off. We had subcontractors who were acting out. We had all sorts of issues getting supplies. Did you bump it? I mean, I'm sure you bumped into all this.
Oh, yes, we have. The dumpster, I think, has been going on for 3 months, and I was like, I did tell somebody the other day, when this is over, I'm never going to say the word dumpster again. I'm going to, because it has dominated my conversations.
And is it getting one from the city?
No. It's building the dumpster enclosure.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, we have to have a dumpster enclosure. And it's big enough where I could land a small plane in it. I had to put that much concrete down. I was like, why do we need something this big? But, that's what the city's requiring.
Oh, and I'm sure it's got to be deep because you have the heavy trucks coming in. Engineering plans.
We ran into an issue with every single stage of construction. Yeah. Our foundation pad wasn't right. We had to dig it out and do it again. And, electrical problems. It was like, you got to be kidding us. So every morning I wake up and I'm like, so now it's kind of the curiosity factor. What's it going to be today? What are we going to run into today, and how are we going to figure it out? So, but I'm at the point of getting our CO now, and so that's, like going down a paperwork trail of horror. So
paperwork trail of tears.
Yeah.
Well, and, you know, some of it's red tape like that, and these things that you didn't think you needed to do, but then you have to after all. But some of it's also, kind of sweet, but still a problem. You were telling me the other day how it's like, oh, this garden's been great, but kids have been taking the flowers and going and giving them to their
I
mom.
love that though. Yeah, we found out that it was like, where are the flowers? And so we found out the neighborhood kids were just coming in and picking them, taking them home to mom, which I love. I just thought that was great.
It's like one of those good problems to have.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, well, we're gonna try and play this video here and have a little patience with us in case the tech isn't working out. But let's go ahead and try and do that.
Hi, I'm Angela Poon.
And I'm Tina Degenhart, and as you can see, we are here at Community Garden Kitchen. We have completed building the building, and we are ready for the next phase. Pack the pantry!
Fill the fridge. I've got a giant refrigerator here that needs to be completely stocked with food, and we could really use your help. Our chef is going to need all kinds of food to prepare delicious, healthy meals for people that are struggling with food insecurity. We would really appreciate your help. Click on the link below that you see on the screen and donate today and help us fill the fridge. Thanks so much for your support.
All right. We're back. So thank you guys for checking that out. And please go to that website to learn a little bit more and to donate. And most importantly, regardless if you donate or not, share this with people, because you can make a very big difference in some people's lives. And as we heard here, it's not just a short-term difference. This will make difference for people's entire lives. If there's ever a cause you can get behind, I think this is a good one. Well, with that, thank you so much for joining us today, Angela. We really appreciate it. And, your challenge for today is to go watch this video and go consider giving or volunteering or sharing this video. And, of course, use those hashtags, #FillTheFridge, #PackThePantry if you are going to share something on social media. And also do that old-fashioned thing where you just talk to somebody about it and tell them, like, hey, I learned a little bit about food insecurity today. Let me tell you about this. And, of course, you can also share this episode that you're watching. And in case you're not aware, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and we are also on Twitch. So you can share from any of those platforms. And with that, everybody have a wonderful Thursday and have a great one.